Good morning, everybody. Guernsey's my hygge. But imagine it's 1978 again, and you've got Rod Stewart in the charts with Do You Think I'm Sexy? You've got Grease on the silver screens, and you might be watching Blake 7 on the TV. Well, in 1978, I was 9 years old, and already I'd been travelling to Guernsey on the Sea Link ferries since 1975. And I was beginning at that tender age of 9 to have a love affair with this beautiful island of yours. And believe it or not, one of my favourite places at the time was the old market, and I'm sure you all maybe miss that market. It was such a wonderful place. And in particular, I really liked the fish market. And each day we would have a walk as a family, go through the market and buy whatever we wanted, wonderful local produce to eat that day. And it was in the fish market in 1978 that an event happened which 33 years later would come back and help me change my life. One day I was walking with my family past the lobsters and the crabs and all the fish, and a fishmonger stopped me and he said, "Hey you, why are you looking so sad?" So imagine me, little girl, 9 years old, I was already very good at looking miserable. And I felt so embarrassed, and I remember going bright red at this fishmonger telling me that I should smile and be happy, and he was right. I had nothing in the world to be miserable about. But at the time, it probably added to my malaise that day, far from cheering me up. If we fast forward 11 years, I became a mum myself. And at the age of 5 or 6, I brought my son to Guernsey too, and he liked the fish market. And the story about the fishmonger hit home, because when my son was in his early 20s, I had a phone call one day, and it was my mother. And she said to me, "Shona, your son's in hospital. He's taken an overdose." And in that moment, the kaleidoscope of my world just shattered, as you might imagine. Gavin St-Pierre shared earlier about his experience of his brother. Well, luckily my son survived, but a few months later, the phone went again, and this time it was one of my brothers, with the same message: he's in hospital, he's tried to take his own life. And so the phone calls continued. If it wasn't my parents or my brothers, it was the police. And if he wasn't in hospital, he was in a police cell. And I learnt firsthand that people with mental health issues are not loved. We don't give them hygge. We put them in a police cell because there's nothing else that the police can do. So I'm telling you this because this is my story. 200 people here today, hundreds listening around the world. Every single human being has a story, don't we? Yeah. Highs and lows, that's our humanity. Would you swap the highs? Would you trade them so you didn't have to have the lows? I wouldn't. I wouldn't trade. My son is okay, he's doing his best, and I'm going to have supper with him next week. And I've got 27 years to try and fix with my son, and I'm going to keep trying. Because I've decided that, for me, happiness isn't this utopian place where we're all leaping around being positive and joyful all the time. But for me, happiness is choosing to see the world through its imperfections and see it as a beautiful place and life as a wonderful opportunity. So I'm going to ask you a question. If you could take a pill that would increase your overall physical and mental health, help you live longer with more joyous, fulfilling relationships, better engagement at work, would you take it? Yeah, it's a bit of a silly question because chances are you would jump at the chance of taking it. Unfortunately, this doesn't come in a bottle, it doesn't come in a pill form, but it does exist. And these are the benefits, these are our byproducts of a happier life, whatever that happiness might mean to you. And with that in mind, I was absolutely delighted when Mark and Jock and the Dandelion Project invited me to spend even more time on the island that I love in Guernsey and coordinate the world's boldest ever happiness experiment. And that's really what I'd like to take some time now and share with you. You will be amazed by the results. The results speak for themselves. They are so compelling. And what I really want to do today is take the opportunity to talk to people one-on-one so we can understand how we can maximise this, how we can magnify these results, because it does go some way to answering the question, how can Guernsey become the happiest and healthiest place on the planet? So, when was it? March 20th, we launched this experiment, which was the United Nations Mental Health Day. So the Dandelion Project invited Action for Happiness, who are a UK-based charity whose patron is the Dalai Lama. And their commitment is to improving happiness and mental health in local communities. And we invited Plasticity Labs, who are a Canadian technology startup company. And what Plasticity have done is create a unique platform. So it's a technological platform that measures psychological scientific interventions and their effect on our neuroplasticity, which is the ability for our brain naturally to grow and develop. Now, past the age of 30, we're told that our brain atrophies by 1% each year. But we can stop that, and I've got the results to prove that here on Guernsey, we've already gone a long way to change this. Action for Happiness and Vanessa King have 10 keys for happier living. They spell out, as you can see, Great Dream. And what we did, we designed a 10-day program, a 10-day happiness challenge, and invited people each day to take part in a challenge, doing a different activity around one of the 10 keys. So, for example, on day 1, in emotions, look for what's good, we asked people to think about what that day had given them gratitude. And maybe I could just invite everyone here and listening to think about 3 things right now that they're grateful for. And as you do that, you might be like myself and you notice a sense of warmth, just a gentle calm, a sense of peace. Fill your body, fill your soul. And science shows us that if we do this every day, it takes 30 seconds maybe, if we do it each day, the results are huge. We can decrease our stress hormones in our body, we can increase our positive emotions, increase our self-esteem, get a better night's sleep, the list is endless, just by doing something for 30 seconds a day. So that gives you one example of how we encouraged people to think about this experiment. This is the leaflet that Mark told you. Now, boy, this leaflet did 3 things. First of all, it was sent to every place on the island, helping people find out more about happiness. Where could they go to get more information about happiness? Secondly, and really importantly, we wanted people to sign up for our experiment. And this was people on Guernsey. And we encouraged people to do that. And thirdly, it was a really good marketing propaganda tool. You may remember the Guernsey press reporting on the junk mail that this was perceived to be. You might remember the comments on the radio, how people said, we don't want people coming to Guernsey telling us how to be happy. And a waste of money. Well, firstly, it was privately funded. Secondly, one person's junk is another person's useful, and I'm going to show you how useful it was. And it worked. So just a matter of days, I think it was 20 days after Gavin St-Pierre's first speech, back in February, we launched this experiment. I brought my doggy with me. We've got John the Tock, Vanessa King from Action for Happiness. My dog Dexter, he was on the island promoting animals and how animals really improve our well-being and mental health. So we launched the experiment. We also invited the world champion beatboxer. You may remember him coming to the island, Base 6. And what we were doing is helping people learn something new. So continually learning is another of the 10 keys to happier living. And we went into different care homes. So here we have Barney and Anthony and the Golden Girls. And we met the lovely Jenny, all in one of the care homes at Le Nouveau Maritain. We also went to various charities on the island. And we got Emily in the front row here. So we went to see Action for Children. We worked with Lottie Barnes at Guernsey Arts Commission, and we were teaching different children there how to beatbox. And then with the Sports Commission, we saw Matt. And it was just, as the week went on, Rupert and I just were overly just amazed the whole time in the way we just felt so humble and happy meeting all these wonderful people each and every day. It was a very, very emotional week. We went into different schools, went into Le Voice School, we went into the Catholic school, and we met just the most wonderful people each day. And what I'd like to do now is just to take a moment and show you one of the videos that we shot.
Very simply, let's start.
Yeah, I tell you, children get it. And apart from beatboxing, and by the way, I was waking up by midweek at 4 a.m. every morning doing the beatboxing, going boots, cats, in my sleep. I can't beatbox. But one of the other things that we did with the children was to talk to them about happiness and get them to tell us what happiness meant to them. And this is one of the posters we created at one of the schools. And you've got things like, when I'm happy, it's about having fun, it's about feeling proud, it's being with my family and having great friendships, feeling joyful. And someone said, being happy is about being able to be myself. And then this little boy said to me, happiness is being in my pureness. Being in my pureness. And do you know what? That broke my heart in a wonderful way, because that little boy gets life. You know, it's the John Lennon quote, isn't it? That when he was a child, he was asked to write a story about what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he said, I want to be happy. And the teacher said, no, you've misunderstood the assignment. And he said to the teacher, no, you misunderstand life. So this little boy in his pureness, that is life. And that's what all of us have got inside us. But because we've got our stories, we get lost in our thinking. Our thinking creates our emotions. And then we're living in the feeling of our thinking. We're not living in our reality. And the pureness is that perfect happiness inside each and every one of us, that when we calm our thinking is there. It's just waiting to be there. We've just forgotten where to find it. So we had a number of indicators which the plasticity platform was measuring, and you've got the whole list here. And what I'm going to do now is spend the rest of my time just showing you the results, and then we need to think about how we can take this further. So in each of the results, you'll see a control group on the left-hand side of the picture. And then we asked people to do a survey. So the volunteers from Guernsey did a survey pre-activities, post-activities, and then we surveyed everyone again 1 month out. So the first one is about happiness. You can see the control group. So we started off, we were about average with the control group. But we saw a significant increase in how happy it felt over that month, and it was sustained 1 month out. The same with inspiration. Significant increase that 1 month out, people said that they really felt even more inspired. The same with meaning. Significant increase, and the effect remained. A sense of purpose. How did people feel that they had enough purpose in their life? We started off a bit higher than the control group, but we were still able to increase that significantly and held the result. Gratitude was an interesting one, because you'll see that with gratitude we started off already a lot higher than the control group, but even so we still shifted it a few points. Flourishing. Do we feel happy and confident? Do we feel that we're a person of value? Again, we were able to shift that significantly and hold the result. And then we move on to the hero indicators. So with hope, we saw a significant increase, but that didn't stick. So one of the things we've learned from this is that we need to rejig how we do things, so we can change the stickability of that. The same with efficacy. A slight increase 1 month out, but it had dropped off. People's resilience, we were able to achieve that as well, significant increase. Notice we started off a significant amount lower than the control group as well. But we were still, even though it dropped a bit after 1 month, we were still able to sustain a significant growth. And the same with optimism. And then we've got two questions we asked around community building. Do we feel we can really make a change within the community? Yes, we do. Anyway, we were higher than the control group, but we were able to increase it, and then it dropped off a little bit, but it was still higher than when we started. And the same with the sense of community. And the thing with this, if we believe there's a sense of community, we act as if there's a sense of community, and you've got a ripple effect. So it's a generative approach. And then this is the UK government's indicator. How satisfied are we with our lives nowadays? So again, we were able to significantly increase that. And now there are 3 which I guarantee are going to blow your socks off. So the development of positive habits. Regularly doing things for ourselves. It's the oxygen mask that Phil was referring to. A significant increase. And if you look at the 1 month marker, what this shows us is that we increased it through the activities. People got their keystone habits in place. And science tells us that if we have our keystone habits in place, then it's generative. And good habits lead to more good habits. And then our physical health. Again, a significant increase, which continued to increase 1 month out. That's amazing. Imagine if we could continue that. And the final one, mental health. Look at that increase of growth after the 10 days activity. We started below the control group, a huge increase, and exactly matched 30 days later. What does that show us? Well, that proves our neuroplasticity properties in our brain. This shows us that we can rewire our brains. This shows us that we can make changes ourselves. We do not need to wait for the government to help us. 1 in 4 of us are going to be touched by mental ill health. That's maybe 50 or 60 of us in the room right now. Prescriptions for antidepressants have gone up by 495%. That's in the UK, but also talking to Greg Lydell, I know that's here on Guernsey too. That's just since the mid-90s. That's not sustainable. So what if we could do this experiment with other types of the population? Just imagine what we could do as a community and as individuals. So we had some learns. This was not perfect. This was a pilot. We put this together in 3 weeks, privately funded. So imagine if we had more time, more investment, and we could run more experiments. So what if we could do it with the clinical population? What if we could increase the number of participants going through it? What if we could change some of the activities so that hope and efficacy could stick? People did say that they would like longer to do the activities. So we can tweak this. We can do whatever we want. It's Guernsey. So what's next? Well, we need you. We're going to have a white paper produced in the Harvard Business Review within the next couple of months by Shona, the world's leading positive psychologist. But apart from that, myself and the Dandelion Project are really absolutely passionate about this. You've seen it. These are Guernsey results. These are not UK results. They're not global results. They are Guernsey results. But we need you. We want to run more of these experiments because we know they work. So please come and talk to me. You know, doctors' surgeries, schools, charities, the hub, anyone. We can do this. And we can answer that question, how can Guernsey be the happiest place on the planet? But if you needed any more motivation or inspiration as to maybe why you should come and talk to me, then I just would like to read you one of the quotes that a participant here on Guernsey shared after the programme. And if you're in the room or listening, thank you for sharing this with us. So they said, I honestly have to say that I haven't felt determined or energetic in a long time, but this project has been the making of me. It stopped my really down days where I felt worthless and that I had little value to anyone. I know I can do things on my own now, but thank you from the bottom of my heart. You will never know the true impact this has had. My children can see a happier mummy, and my husband, the girl he first met 12 years ago. Thank you.